Since 1990, Ed quietly invested in youth athletics with his time, talent, and treasure. He never sought accolades, rather received his reward in watching the joy brought to student athletes. Sportsmanship, respect, volunteerism, and the value of hard work were principles that he treasured and worked hard to bring to our local youth.
What I remember most about Uncle Ed, as we like to call him, all the coaches, was that he truly loved kids. He loved being around sports. He loved being around the crowds. The thing that I remember most about it, that was his generosity towards the kids. And he sat down, he goes, "I'd like you to do me a favor." And I said, "I'll do anything for you. What do you need?" He goes, "I'd like to be your scorekeeper." I said, "Really? You want to be my scorekeeper?" He goes, Yep. I live in New York Mills. I know a lot of these people, and I'd like to be the scorekeeper." And that was the beginning of, from then until he passed, our friendship. He did things for kids in his school that he heard about that needed something. And we always wondered how he knew it, but he always came through. I miss him a lot, even today, as you can tell. Ed Wadas was the best human being I've ever known.
I first met Ed when I was a player at Whitesboro. He did the clock for soccer, which I played. He did the clock in the book for basketball, which I played. And he did the book for baseball, which I played. Ed was the best guy you could ever want to meet. He's like a second father. He did anything and anything for everybody. He had no kids of his own, but he took the kids at Whitesboro under his wing, and that's how he became Uncle Ed. Everybody called him Uncle Ed. The Candyman, any place we went, if he was keeping time, doing the book or whatever, he always had M&M's, peanuts, and Kraft caramels, sitting right there on the desk or the score table for anybody to take at any time. That's how we became the Candyman. We would have Saturday morning practices. And this probably would have been one of the funny things. He would go to Holland Farms first, and so during practice, the coach's office was above the court. So when the coach wasn't looking, when we were playing, he would drop a donut down to us.
I met Ed because he was a client of my office. He was one of my partner's clients, and my partner introduced me to Ed because Ed had this idea of forming a foundation, a not-for-profit, and my expertise at that time was not-for-profits. So he brought Ed in, and we talked a little bit, and I said, "Ed, you really need to talk to your attorney." And I think that's how John got involved, because his attorney at the time was also retiring, and he brought John into the picture at the same time, and we all met together to try to come to some kind of an idea as to what Ed really had in mind and what he really wanted this foundation to do. And
yeah, that's how I remember it. There was Larry Golbass of our office of Kernan & Kernan, was Ed's longstanding attorney for many, many years. And he was retiring, so he suggested that I take over. And I was a young lawyer. I was really 1 year out of law school, so I really was very, very green. And he introduced me to Ed, and Ed was a sophisticated and experienced consumer of legal services. And he knew that I was very young lawyer in the firm, and he could have had his pick of who he wanted to be his lawyer. But he went with me anyway, and it turned out to be a great, long-standing relationship. But I was always impressed with how patient he was and tolerant, and he never complained that he should have been with a senior partner or a higher level lawyer. We hit it off from the beginning, and he was most gracious about it.
I was in the same firm with John, and I met Ed 48 years ago. He was introduced to me by the same lawyer that John mentions, Larry Goldbass. I was 2 years out of law school at the time, but I didn't know anything. But one thing that Larry wanted me to know about Ed was that you are never going to be with him for a long time. When he sets up an appointment, he's on time, be there. Expect that he's going to come prepared to discuss what it is he would like done. And when he's done, he'll get up and leave and shake your hand.
He always wanted a morning appointment, at least when I was doing work for him, because he had so many activities scheduled in the afternoon. Most of them were sports and Whitesboro related and volunteering. And he had a checklist of things that he had to do in the morning because he had more important things in his mind in the afternoon that he had to get to.
I agree. My first impression was, well, here's a man that wants something done. And he wants you to do it the right way. He wants you to finish it, get back to him, bill him. He always wanted his bill right after the appointment, which I give him credit for. And he always paid his bill, usually the same day. The check would be written the same day.
You know, Ed basically was born, and except for the time he ended up in an assisted care living, he was born and lived in the same house his entire life. And him and his brother, when they were younger, they used to make sandwiches, and they used to cook soups, and they used to make coffee, and they used to go to all the knitting mills that we used to have in the area, and that's how they used to make a living. And I said, well, I said, but Ed, how did you get from there to here? And he said, one day when I was delivering food, there was a gentleman who came up to me and basically disrespected me. He said I was just nothing more than just a sandwich maker, and I'd never amount to anything. And he said that bothered me. It bothered me a lot. And he made a decision on that day to buy the Wall Street Journal. And he used to read the Wall Street Journal from front to back every single day. And it was from that time that he basically went from making sandwiches to buying real estate to becoming an investor and basically doing it all on his own.
He was just in such a good mood. He was so joyful and just beaming by being able to share with children. And that stands out to me as probably the most vivid memory of all the things that I experienced with Ed. It was just a wonderful, wonderful thing. If there's one thing I would want to pass on to young athletes today, that they could take from being around Ed Wadas, and that would be to just be a class act, to be a gentleman, to be a good sportsman, to play fair, to help out, to be a good teammate.
Ed always thought that the person that never played was as important as the star. Ed always thought that anybody on the team, anybody that showed up for practice, was just as valuable.
Later in life, when he set up the foundation and he began to award scholarships, he had that in mind. The bench warmer, the manager, whoever was behind the scenes on the team would be the person that he would most like to have the scholarship.
But at the same time, he got a great deal of enjoyment out of enhancing experiences. But I think to just touch on what Fred said, he really understood the value of youth sports and the lessons that were taught, and how it kept kids out of trouble, and it gave kids a place to go and put them in touch with good quality people. And it was far more than who scored the most touchdowns or home runs. For him, it was all about life lessons and what sports could teach. I think that was really down at the core of what he was all about.
And just adding to what they've said as far as why I think Ed chose this as the mission, I think his generous heart was what propelled him into the thought of making sure that youth sports, boys and girls, first with Whitesboro, then Oriskany, then New York Mills, and then the counties, He just was full of generosity and full of a need to be in their midst to help them develop.
Mr. Wadas's unwavering vision and generosity have shaped the lives of countless local youth. Recognizing the profound value of youth sports, he championed the life lessons they teach: teamwork, resilience, and character. His enduring legacy ensures that generations of children will continue to embrace the joy of athletics and carry these lessons with them for a lifetime.